What is up, lads? You're with Budgetmonk, and welcome to the first episode of Brandenburg Boot Camp. Brandenburg Boot Camp is intended to be a general multi-purpose EU4 guide. However, we are specifically playing as the nation of Brandenburg, and I'm hoping that you guys will be able to manage your nations like a Prussian general. With that being said, the series is intended to be multi-purpose and less specific enough to be applicable to other nations and other theaters as well. However, in this case, the first episode will be very applicable to Brandenburg specifically because the theme of the first episode is starting off well. So I'm going to show you how to start off well as Brandenburg specifically. With that being said, in my opinion, starting off well actually begins outside of the game. And, for example, this is what inspired this run. Poland can actually be PU'd more easily than other nations if you're playing as somebody in Europe who can befriend them, because you can actually elect your own dynasty to their government, assuming they do take the correct government type upon PUing Lithuania via the event. Now, the issue is, of course, that Brandenburg and Poland do not get along, because they both highly desire this land. So, here's one of the many nations who does not feel as though they can take advantage of that situation, even though it would be epic. So I set out to try to achieve the lockdown of Königsberg, but more specifically, West and East Prussia. I was not sure if it was easily obtainable, but I did devise a strategy where I'm able to lock down and therefore have this beautiful border. I'm happy if he takes Kolm because it's Polish and it belongs to this state outside of Prussia and no longer required. So I wanted to obtain that beautiful border and maintain Poland as a beautiful, powerful ally in the meantime, and actually, hopefully, subjugate him at a later date. That's what inspired this, and either way, I hope that you guys enjoy. Just keep in mind that this being the first episode and being specific to Brandenburg is going to be a little bit more unique than the other episodes. Alright boys, this is where the guide actually begins. So first things first, I'm aiming for Burgundy, Austria, and Poland as allies ideally. Now, you might not be able to obtain all three of them, but that's what we're going for. In our case, Burgundy's not rivaling Austria, so that's best. You want to try to take advantage of the fact that Austria is friendly and actually ally him last, while grabbing a royal marriage with him instead, if that was that case. Now, often Austria will actually flip away from friendly, but simply by taking your first war, what you're going to see, and by improving relation of Poland or Austria respectively, you're going to be able to actually obtain all three as they flip friendly after the war. That's what you're going for. But however, you can see things are going pretty quickly here. I went ahead and took a Diplo Reputation Advisor because they were available and insulted Burgundy's enemy, which was allowing me to actually grab a royal marriage with him right off the bat. If you don't do that, he's going to get too many relations. Otherwise, when our emissaries return, I'm going to try to do the same thing with Poland before he gets too many relations as well. And next month, just after we're able to declare a war, we should be able to ally all three of these nations. Otherwise, I went ahead and hired 4 mercenaries. We're going to go ahead and talk about military tactics in a video dedicated towards that, so I'm not going to go in deep, but basically, they're extremely manpower efficient in the beginning of the game, and yes, I did actually loan up in order to hire 4 mercenaries. I highly suggest that you do the same thing as I did here. Otherwise, doing general estate stuff, you're going to want to actually use the diet bonus to get the development cost reduction on your burghers, and then develop a province by 1 in order to be able to add it to the burghers now that it's 10 development and get that 75 points. As we continue on here, I've got a royal marriage with all 3 of these target nations, and we're going to go ahead before the end of the first month after unpausing the game, be very deliberate with our rival options. So as you can see here, taking my mission completed by completing our force limit, and I did go ahead and decide to actually rival Brunswick. Now, often Lüneburg and Magdeburg are valid rivals and they're prime targets for our first initial war. However, it can fluctuate here. You can see in this case, Lüneburg and Magdeburg did become a valid rival after a month. However, they were not initially. And what I went ahead and did is rivaled Magdeburg. Why? Because he's allied to Brunswick, as you can see. So ideally, your first war is going to be exploiting the fact that not everybody has very strong diplomacy in the beginning of the game, and you're actually going to humiliate, rival one of your enemies here in order to show strength over them. There you can see we've locked down all 3 allies. We're going to fight a war here, showing strength over our opponent, which is a unique peace offer made available when you humiliate rival CB, and it allows you to basically humiliate rival, but also give you 100 to each monarch point. Absolutely amazing. It's going to be great for power projection as well as everything else. However, of course, if he's allied to your enemy, like Magdeburg, you're able to actually humiliate one of them and then show strength on the other. And the stupid thing is, even though show strength is basically an advanced version of humiliate rival, it does not count towards the age objective, but in this case it will, of course, because we're going to do humiliate rival on his ally, our enemy Magdeburg. You can see they're decent enough. It was pretty sloppy. The fact that these troops or allied nations were so close to each other actually made that pretty close. But often you're going to be able to win wars like this against 2, 3, sometimes even 4 nations and being dramatically outnumbered. You're going to be able to win wars like this by simply taking advantage of the fact that you are going to be proactive, declaring the war, and stack wipe one of these smaller stacks immediately, and try to whack-a-mole them if they're split up and separate. What you're going to be worried about fighting these small wars is where they actually accumulate. So pretty self-explanatory here. You can see by actually stack wiping these troops and standing on their capitals, this war is as much as over. It's as good as over. We're going to actually piece out both of these nations, one for a humiliate rival CB, and then just simply finish off Brunswick and get that show strength. So we're jumping ahead here to the peace offers, and just keep in mind that the perfect peace offer with a regular nation like Anhalt is basically going to be taking his cash, his money, transfer trade power in this circumstance, and then actually try to fit in an end rivalry as well. And this is going to give you the maximum economic bonus, but also the maximum sort of prestige available for your war score. Just keep in mind that you won't actually be able to do that peace offer for 95% every time if they actually have their troops about and it hasn't been long enough and they have enough enthusiasm. But there you go, the first age bonus completed up to 42 power projection. We're going to jump ahead here to where I actually piece out Brunswick as well. So by the way, it should be self-explanatory that prestige actually reduces aggressive expansion impact, and that's why we're going to be very prestige obsessed here. That's part of the reason that we're fighting this war initially, as we didn't have claims or anything like that, as well as all the other bonuses, like in particular the monarch points and power projection. Also, we're obsessed with that age bonus and getting the humiliate rival off for the same reason. Surprise, surprise, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that we're going to be taking the aggressive expansion reduction bonus here from the Age of Discovery in this as this first bonus as soon as it becomes available. But there you go, boys, 72 power projection, a massive amount of power projection there, and we're actually ahead of the vast majority of the world in monarch points now, having grabbed 100 to each. And personally, I'm going to opt towards actually ticking up before the rest of the world and receiving 6 innovativeness here in the beginning of the game, 2 for each technology. Alright guys, that's how your first war should have gone down, and this is the situation that you should be in, rocking with power projection, monarch points, and yes, a bit of debt. That's okay, as long as we're going to win wars, we're going to recover our economy. Now keep in mind that this guide, as we begin our second war here against Pomerania, I was fabricating throughout the course of that war against Pomerania, making a claim, and we're going to jump straight into him. Now, if something actually went wrong, like for example, Pomerania has extremely good diplomacy, I'm sorry to say guys, but this is not a starter guide. This is not actually a guide on how to own and deal with every situation that went wrong. It's more like vague principles which are going to help you deal with things like aggressive expansion. However, I am trying to show you how to lock down that theater from Poland, and you're going to want to go ahead and annex Pomerania before 1500. So I'm not going to go in deep. This video is long enough already. But in regards to dealing with Pomerania, I happen to luck out here where he's got a small ally. I have defeated him when he's had many nations with the kind of whack-a-mole technique, jumping and stack wiping his troops, fully annexing his land here, preventing him from reinforcing, and basically doing a combination of base racing his allies while they sit on Berlin, or actually whack-a-moling their troops while they're split off separately, or even using the forest defensive bonus in Berlin to defeat them. Now, if he's allied to Denmark or something like that, that's another story. It happened to me. This wasn't a one-shot first attempt, because it's not just about beating Pomerania. We actually want to go into Danzig before the year 1500. So with that in mind, don't dilly-dally around. Even if you have the opportunity to do a show strength war CB against somebody else with the humiliate rival CB, I wouldn't do that. I would jump straight in against Pomerania, and you want to hit up each objective one by one and feel content with that. But as you guys can see, he's just allied to East Frisia here, so we obviously won the war. I'm just going to jump ahead to the peace offer as usual. Now, what I did and what I highly recommend you guys do is actually take the one province you had claim on and otherwise vassalize Pomerania. Clearly, this is going to cost you a little bit of Diplo points, but we are ahead in monarch points anyway. It is just way more beneficial in every regard. They actually give you tribute, which is about as much money as you're actually going to make from owning those provinces directly, but then they also actually contribute some forces here in the beginning of the game, and more importantly, they actually increase your force limit. Actually, vassalizing Pomerania has dramatically reduced aggressive expansion rather than annexing all of it. And like I just said, it's basically just objectively better. Yes, you are paying for some diplo points, but it is just so much better. So that's why I recommend doing that. Now, otherwise here, you can see that I actually did use the Humiliate Rival CB to go in against Mecklenburg. Like I said in the beginning of the run, we're going to try to do that show strength as many times as possible. With that being said, I obviously knew just from playing in this theater that he would actually become an invalid rival now that I vassalized Pomerania and won the war. And that's why I recklessly started the war here, even though our troops were not in position and they were exiled, is to actually try to get that show strength off. Now, you guys can see that I'm actually cutting this really close to the year 1500, which is the point at which we actually want to declare war on the Teutonic Order, and I highly suggest that you guys don't go for this kind of greedy play if you're not comfortable. I was cutting it really close, and just keep in mind that I was prepared to actually white piece Mecklenburg if it was going to cost me the run here, because we do want to actually ideally jump in against the Teutonic Order right at the beginning of the year 1500 before the actual event dynamic with the city of Danzig occurs, and therefore we're unable to grab Danzig easily from the Teutonic Order. So my greedy play did end up turning out well, but we're going to be jumping ahead here to the important thing of actually declaring war on the Teutonic Order. Now, of course, Poland is going to help us here if we promise him land, and that's exactly the play. Also, take note that I have not gotten the fate of Neumark, and the fate of Neumark is, it can be really annoying because you cannot go down your mission tree. So this is part of the reason I highly recommend that you do that one play tactic against Pomerania. There's no downside to doing it. It just means you need one claim, and you don't actually need to complete the reclaim Neumark from Teutonic Order mission in order to get those claims. Just vassalize him. It's going to work regardless. My intention is to win this war and actually not take Neumark, and hope that in my truce time the fate of Neumark does occur, so that just in case I didn't get it, it's going to work out the same either way. Now, in my case, the Teutonic Order was allied to Hungary, but the Livonian Order didn't become call to arms as he was suffering too much war exhaustion via being attacked by Denmark. So this war can be fairly difficult if things actually go wrong and he has really good diplomacy, but for the most part, you're just going to ride on Poland's back. And the good thing about him bringing in Hungary is that we're going to be able to actually hand off Hungarian clay to the Poles, which they're obviously going to desire, from the peace offer of the Teutonic Order. This is going to allow you to actually take Danzig yourself, but actually appease the Poles where you did hand off enough land. Now, let's assume that he doesn't have Hungary as an ally, and maybe he has Magdeburg. It's going to be very important to just go in and wreck Magdeburg, obviously, but just in general, it's going to be really important to try to participate as much as you can in the war, and that means sitting on sieges yourself, because inevitably the Poles are going to carry you, and that is going to be represented in the war scroll cost. They're going to have the majority of the contribution of the war effort, but again, you want to do as much as participation as you can yourself. And the reason why, as we jump ahead to the peace offer, is that we're going to be giving him the province of Culm. Now, assuming we're not giving him to Hungary, like I said, you're worried about actually fulfilling your promise to him, and aka him not hating you, breaking your alliance. So the way that you actually achieve that is by not taking many provinces from the Teutonic Order. It's very important. You just take Danzig. You give him Culm, take Danzig for yourself. Now, you can take money, but it's very important to watch that the green tick on Poland's portrait on the top left of the peace offer screen, because if you take money, for example, for yourself in the form of war reparations, he's not going to like that. And remember, we're not just trying to expand into East and West Prussia, we're trying to keep Poland as our best friend as well. That beautiful, perfect scenario. Now, we're going to be doing other things in between our next war, like developing our capital city to actually fulfill that other age bonus of 30 dev capital. I even, while I'm at peace here, I took out debt, guys, just to upgrade the center of trade in Berlin, which actually gives the local development reduction cost to the province. But apart from things like that. We're actually doing nothing in between now and our truce offer, or truce with the Teutonic Order. Speaking of truce, it's actually not too long, because we didn't 100% him or anything like that. So our aggressive expansion is quite high, but we're in a good circumstance here, as you can see. You can actually drill, which I highly recommend. Drill, but keep your maintenance down, and this will actually prevent you from paying your mercenaries whilst you are drilling. But thanks to the tribute and the trade transfer from Pomerania that we're going to take advantage of when he's happier, we got that royal magic, etc. We're actually doing well financially, and like I said, we're doing nothing until our point, primarily because of aggressive expansion, that the truce comes up with the Teutonic Order. So we're going to skip ahead to that moment where things really go down. Now, as we begin this next war, I just want to make it clear that we did get the fate of Neumark in between the downtime and that truce, and we're going to go ahead and declare this war, but not call Poland in. Now, ordinarily, guys, you would be unable to call Poland in if you weren't in the scenario where he was actually allied to Hungary, the Teutonic Order, because if you're unable to pass off Hungary's provinces to Poland, you're not going to have 10 favors at this time. Now, it's not that big of a deal if you have 10 favors to actually lock down these occupations, which is extremely important, of course, because if Poland occupies them himself, you're gutted. He's not going to give the occupation to you if he desires the provinces. So it's about navigating whether or not he's going to join the war, because let's pretend we can't call him in, just like this game here, he's not in the war. You can see that he is mobilizing against the Teutonic Order. Now, see the fort on the border between the Teutonic Order and Poland? This is a pretty good way to gauge whether he's going to declare the war or not, is whether he's maintaining that fort or not. But of course, in this case, he's walking up to the border, and I can see the impending doom occurring here. So I'm desperately trying to gauge the occupations. Now, what I recommend you to do, if you feel as though you're unable to get these occupations because Poland's going in, he's not dealing with any economic issues, any rebels, anything like that, I recommend, if you feel like this is undoable, I can't get these occupations and block Poland out, then actually call him into the war by promising him land, which you will be able to do because you honored your promise last time. And all you need to do is just white peace. It's just that simple. As long as you don't take anything, even though you promised land, he's not going to hate you. Okay, so just white peace. Do something else in the meantime, like take a province from Mecklenburg, whatever, and just jump back in 5 years. This time, you will have the favors, not a problem. So that's why I have no shame jumping ahead here in the footage, as you can see. And we set out to achieve exactly what I wanted to achieve by calling in Poland into the war. We've got the claims. As long as you set them high priority before declaring the war, you shouldn't have too much trouble getting those claims, but still try to contest them to the best of your ability when Poland is called in. So whether it was 5 years later from now or right now, we got that dream border. Feels good, man. Now, I know that this was very much sort of like an edited version of a Let's Play, but I did want to show you guys my goals from the very beginning, what exactly you're going to do, how the wars should look, how many wars you could potentially be fighting, and going in and achieving exactly what we set out to do, that dream diplomacy and that dream border with Poland. Now that the series has been set off on the right foot, and hopefully your game in the same way, the next episodes are going to be more focused on economic breakdowns, diplomacy, aggressive expansion, and going deep into specific subjects. But with that being said, that was the first episode of Brandenburg Boot Camp, starting off well. Many of the other episodes are not going to be as long as this one. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you're excited to see the in-depth strategies coming here in the future of this series. Peace out, lads. Make Prussia proud.
And this is to go even further beyond!